I pant, I sink, I expire. Is that what happens to you when you stand up and speak in public? Well, the good news is you are not alone. And the even better news is you can actually do something about it. So my name is Maggie Ford, and I work with people on speaking and presentation skills, all sorts of different people, because realistically, in today's world, who doesn't have to speak? Particularly once you're out into the world of business of any kind, you have to be able to present yourself, which is the most important, and of course, your business, whatever business you go into. So let's have a quick look at some of the things that get in the way of you being able to be a brilliant, confident public speaker. Nervous tension is the obvious one. You stand up there, your knees shake, your voice goes, you can't breathe, you're stumbling over your words all over the place, and you think, if I go really fast, I'll get to the end of this really quickly, and then I can go away and pretend it's never happened, and just hope that somebody has listened to you. Well, the first thing about that, of course, is if you have gone really fast, most people would not have listened to a word you've said. Secondly, one of the most important things you need to be aware of when you face an audience is certain things that go through the mind of your audience the moment you are in front of them. Firstly, who is this person? Secondly, do I feel comfortable with this person? Thirdly, does this person fill me with confidence? Fourthly, can I hear and understand this person? And finally, what is this person saying? If you fall down on those first 4 principles of speaking, you're already sunk, because your audience will not be listening. They won't feel good about you, they won't feel comfortable, any of those things. So it's all very well somebody saying to me, yes, but Maggie, once I get into the speech, then, and I know what I'm talking about, I'm all right. Forget it, because your audience have already switched off. They've made a decision. They're not listening to you. They don't feel comfortable, they don't feel good, and in some cases they can't hear you or indeed understand you. So you have to deal with that, thinking about that as you face your audience. So back on this terrible thing, nervous tension, which absolutely wrecks everything. Well, the bottom line of nervous tension is breathing. You need to be aware, if you breathe deeply, you cannot be tense. And if you are tense, you cannot breathe deeply. It is absolutely a completely obvious fact of the business of breathing and speaking that the two things are completely linked, but not only breathing and speaking are linked, but of course breathing and physical, mental tension are linked. So when I work with anybody, we certainly look at issues concerned with breathing. So how does that affect your speech? So you get together and you sort out your breathing, you start to breathe deeply. Well, if you're breathing deeply, you can produce a much more resonant voice, which means, of course, you can be heard, which is rather important. Also, if you're breathing deeply, your voice is not tense, it's much more comfortable for an audience to listen to you. So breathing affects your vocal projection. So what else comes into play in terms of your speaking? Well, articulation. You have to open your mouth. And one of the things I'm always dealing with is people who speak with their mouths closed. So if you're meeting somebody and they talk to you like this, first of all, it doesn't feel very friendly. So in terms of your body language, it's pretty grim. And secondly, you can't understand, let alone hear, what they are saying. So it's terribly important that you get used to actually opening your mouth to form the words that hopefully, once you've done the breathing, once you're in contact with your resonance and your projection, you are now able to do. But you have to form the words with the lips, the tongue, the roof of the mouth, and the teeth. So there are varying exercises that you can do around that. One very good tip to remember in terms of whether or not your mouth is open is what I call the 2 fingers rule, which is the first and second finger in between your teeth. And that is the position your mouth should be in when you are speaking, not that. And that is a very good thing to try and remember. You can try it yourself in front of the mirror and see what your mouth actually looks like when it's actually open at the correct level for speaking. So those are some of the technical things that we would look at in terms of your speaking. But what about your speech itself? What do you need to think about? Well, firstly, you need to welcome your audience. Any audience, regardless of whether you're going to an interview or whether you are in a boardroom, needs to feel welcome. And there's a wonderful Irish saying, Céil Míle Fáilte, which means 1,000 million welcomes. So that's what you should think of when you're in front of an audience, to make them feel comfortable. So what else do you need to think about? Well, you need to think about giving your audience the chance to listen, absorb, and get ready to listen again. Because if you go too fast, they've already lost you. I mean, a brilliant speaker to think of, particularly in the world today, is of course Obama. Fantastic speaker. Now, he takes forever, but he absolutely allows an audience in. And the other thing that he does, which is terribly important, he shares. So don't give people information, share information. And I often say to people, when they are thinking about developing their public speaking skills, write 2 things on your bedroom wall: share, share, and make your audience feel welcome. Welcome, share. Terribly important aspects of speaking. Now, one of the other things, of course, which is much further down the line, is how to speak with passion, commitment, and variety. Well, if you've got a closed mouth and you're not breathing, you can't even begin on that front at all. You have to have a flexible voice in order to be able to change. Sometimes you need to be able to speak much faster, possibly in a higher pitch, to get people's attention. Sometimes you need to speak with much lower voice. You need to change the speed of it. You need to be able to use emphasis. So in other words, you're using all sorts of techniques to make your voice interesting. One very good thing to do is telling children's stories. So even if you haven't got children, read a child's story out loud. Read The Gruffalo, and do it with as much commitment, excitement, all of those things as you would use if you were talking to a 5-year-old. Sometimes when I'm working with clients, I get them to do their, I don't know, it might be a law speech or something that's very dry about finance, and I get them to do it exactly as though they're talking to a 5-year-old and telling them a really exciting story. It's a very good technique for liberating your speech. So there we are. There are a few tips in terms of public speaking. I hope they've been useful, but above all, if you want to do anything about it, you really have to work at it and preferably have some tuition, ideally on a one-to-one basis, but otherwise in a small group, in the same way that I do with firms of solicitors, county councils, all sorts of different people. So thank you for listening, and I hope it's been useful. So remember, when you face an audience, breathe, make eye contact, smile, and begin.